Welcome to the Reschool'd podcast, the show that discusses all the things that schools may have missed, with your hosts AJ Kuti and Jason Gordon. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We are the Reschool'd podcast, the show that discusses all the things that schools may not have prepared you for. As always, I am AJ, and sitting across from me, Jason. Jason, how are you doing today?
It's been a great day so far, AJ. Fall has finally fully arrived because it is cold, right?
It was 31 degrees this morning.
I know, it was painful. I've mentioned before on the show that I do a 2-mile walk with my girls to school every morning. This morning, a little bit painful, not going to lie.
You still walk this morning?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's part of the routine. We got to get that energy out as much for me as it is for the girls. But we gotta get up, got to get our feet moving and stuff like that. Because otherwise, my older daughter has a lot of energy. When I say a lot, I mean she is off the chain half the time. So if we don't get this at least, I think tempered it's probably down to her school 3/4 of a mile. If we don't get that in the morning, it's rough. It's rough. She can't pay attention.
And here my girls are over here going, did you warm up the car for us? So.
That is one feature I have wanted on my car, one of those automatic cranks.
Oh, I don't have one of those.
My car doesn't come with it.
Man, mine doesn't either. I want one. So I have to get up. I mean, I go out there and turn on the car, but I love those cars that have those automatic turn on. And it, depending on the temperature outside, it'll tell you, it'll tell the car to either turn on the air conditioner or the heater.
Yeah, that sounds like a Christmas present right there.
That sounds like a fantasy in my world. Well, last episode we talked about scheduling courses. We talked about our tips and tricks, and this episode we're going to keep going down that tips and tricks. I think tips and tricks we've seen kind of based on the numbers that it seems like a lot of listeners really enjoy the tips and tricks. They maybe utilize them a little bit more. So we're going to keep following down that path, and as we come down to the end towards the end of a semester, depending on where you go, we're getting more into exams and final projects, and really just the brunt of everything coming to a close, which means it becomes even busier, more stressful, those kind of things. So we're going to be talking about tips and tricks for mental health in college. What do you think about that?
That is a great idea. I've actually, of course, we've mentioned this a couple times before today, that this is something we really need to dive into because it's something that affects more and more students every day. Before we jump in, though, I want to remind everybody, please check us out on our website, on the social media platforms. Of course, we know you love us. We know you're listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform, right? But also engage with us on our website. Send us a message. Tell us the things you want to hear about because we want to talk about the things that matter to you. But of course, continue to show us the love on the podcasting apps and sharing our episodes when we drop new episodes. So appreciate that.
Very much so. Well, let's get into the quick question. Has mental health ever been a struggle for you during your academic career?
Yes. Okay. But why don't you answer first? I want to hear from you. Have you ever had any struggles or any fights there?
I can answer this in so many ways. I mean, I've said it multiple times on this show. One of the things that I do have is I have ADHD. I have it really, really rough times at times when certain things are going on. And I've had to figure out ways to, overcome that. I will say, right now in the semester that I'm in my doctoral program, this is probably the most challenging semester I've ever gone through. By far, not even close, because of just everything that we normally have to do during the week, plus all of the end of the year projects and stuff, papers, research papers, stuff like that. It's super difficult to get everything done and still kind of have that time for yourself. Like it's pretty much me sitting in front of a computer for the better part of maybe 10 hours a day, trying to get stuff done because it's coming, and we're coming down to the end. I think we have 3 weeks now in ours, and we still have 2 research papers, executive summary paper, and then we have 3 presentations that we have to give. And it's just, and on top of our normal, like I said, weekly stuff. And it's just, there's that overload. And a few episodes ago, we talked about that feeling of overwhelmed. Like we are there. And more so, I've heard from other students, more so from them than me, because I'm just in a different situation. I have a little bit more free time.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's a struggle. Like you start questioning yourself, you start questioning your ability, you start doing, and like I said, then you add on top of that stuff like ADHD or
Hmm.
anxiety or depression for some people. Those kind of things really start to weigh on you, and they start growing, and they start almost like festering to where if you don't put a halt to it, it's going to get even worse.
Well, you bring up a good point there about, so there are a lot of people out there who have zero medical issues. There's nothing that's going to add on top of it. But just the time constraint, just the pressure that comes with all of these assignments being due at the same time, right at the end of the semester, all the classes coming together, and it's incredibly stressful, even for someone who doesn't have any of your normal, I don't want to say disabilities, any
Yeah.
of your order of, well, impairments. I'll say
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Okay, that ADHD, ADD, anxiety, depression, anything like that that can hit during those times when there's a lot of stressors in the environment and things like that. And that's what you're going through now, right? You have something that's a little bit more, right? Your hyperactivity, coupled with the fact that the expectation now is if you're going to get all this done, you have a job, you have a family, but you have all of these things going on in school, you're sitting in front of a computer 10 hours a day working.
Yeah.
That is not easy to do. Even
No,
on an
and
8-hour workday, most people don't do that, right? You go to lunch, you get up, you walk around, you do the water cooler talk, you do whatever, right? There are other things that fill your day, and that's, anyway, it's just a lot is what I'm saying for any person, whether you have some level of impairment or otherwise.
what about you?
Well, yes. And I don't have any identified impairment, at least that I
Mhm.
know of. I certainly had issues paying attention when I was younger. It was pretty extensive, but I kind of grew out of it. It was something that lasted till I was probably 11 or 12 years old, and then it got better. But there have been times, particularly there, I can remember when I was in middle school, I had a real issue there. There was a time when I didn't feel confident at all because of my inability to pay attention. I wasn't doing that well in school. It was a time when you go through awkward social and developmental phases and things like that. So it
I'm
was a
still
little
going through that
rough.
phase.
Yeah, well, I think we all are, right? So, so that hit me pretty hard then, and I can remember it being a really down period, a down time that I can also remember coming out of it and how much better I felt coming out of that few month period and it was in a way borderline micro depression. And so that really didn't hit again until I got into college. And there was a time, my first year of college, I was so overwhelmed, so overworked. There were so many things going on that, yeah, it hit me again. And I had mental health struggles again. It wasn't in your traditional form of anxiety, it was more in terms of, I would say, borderline micro depression, just losing. I never lost the motivation because fear was always the motivation, the fear of failure, the fear of, losing what you've already gained. But there definitely was a down period, right, that I had to deal with during that period. So that hit me then pretty hard. And then there was a micro period during my first year of law school. Once again, it was very overwhelming in terms of the workload. It was just constant. I was trying to carry on a social life and trying to work some at the same time because I needed to, which is not highly recommended for your first year of law school. It tends to
No.
be a full-time job for most people, and anything else is just social in nature. And I was still trying to carry on a completely separate social life and work some at the same time, which don't recommend, right? Segment out your life in a way where you don't have to do those things. But that being said, yes. So I've struggled with it, and it's been different types of struggle at different points in time. So I've had some of the issues. Now, you've had a valid impairment. I've definitely seen some extensive impairments in my students. So the extent to which we can talk about it probably only scratches the surface of what some
Sure.
students feel based upon the disability that they have.
Sure, of course. And that's why we're here. We're not telling you, this episode is not about diagnosing yourself. It's not telling you about, it's simply giving our tips and our tricks for ways that will ease some of the mental health burden, whether you have something diagnosed or it's undiagnosed or you don't have an impairment. It's just you're dealing with tough times. You're going through a tough season because one thing or another. This is what we're trying to do with this episode. So let's jump into it. Give me your first one. What's your first tip to kind of help with mental health in college?
Pretty much all of my tips, I'll go ahead and tip my hand here, are seeking support. And the first type of person you need to seek support from is a professional.
For sure.
I would say almost every academic institution has some form of mental health counseling, whether it's simply in the form of counselors to help you through your daily struggles, or whether it's actual physicians on campus with whom you can speak about your issues. You can just, if nothing else, have a voice, have an ability to tell somebody, have someone to listen to the troubles or issues you're having. That's the first one. Because once again, we only know so much. We think we understand ourselves, but we don't understand some of the deeper psychological underpinnings of why we're going through things. A professional can help you understand that. And while they may not be able to cure it, they may not be able to even alleviate it in some situations, having an understanding of what you're facing is probably the first step in dealing with it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Just speaking with someone who can validly diagnose you. And with that being said, if it's just common anxiety that is not part of any sort of impairment or anything like that, again, these people can help you understand that. So you don't wonder whether you have something else wrong with you. You don't, and if there are any measures that can alleviate it, well, they're going to be the ones that can help you. Hopefully it doesn't come to medication or anything like that, because I'm certainly not pro taking any form of medication except for when it's absolutely necessary and it's doctor prescribed.
Yep.
Hopefully by a well-seasoned professional in that field that fully understands it, right? So that they can monitor and regulate whatever you're taking. But if that is a necessity, that you seek the professional help needed to diagnose and remedy it. So that's one. Professional help.
I will say from my perspective, and I know a lot of people out there too, they have things that go undiagnosed. And there's a difference between undiagnosed and self-diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
Or I should say there's a difference between being diagnosed and being self-diagnosed. And I do think the professional help does identify that more accurately. I mean, you can self-identify all you want, but it takes a professional to actually see and diagnose you. But I will also say too, for those who are, who are struggling in some way, there is to whatever you're dealing with, there is a negative stigma, or there at least used to be. There's not as much as we see it now, but there used to be a negative stigma about these kind of things where, if you were ADHD, you were just a bad kid. And in reality, I look back and go, yeah, I did some stuff that was, I said stuff in class that was not me. And this was before I was diagnosed. I said stuff not because I was trying to be the class clown or I was trying to be disruptive in class, but more so my brain was in certain classes, I was a little bit further ahead than the intro, the beginning of the semester, especially math oriented classes. I love math. And so I tend to be a little bit further along than like the first day of class, the first week of class and stuff like that. And that's usually when I got in the most trouble because I was so bored and my mind was running so much. And I had a serious problem of speaking before I thought. And once I started taking the medicine, once I got diagnosed and started taking my medicine, like I can tell a difference. It's like night and day. Like I actually start thinking before I speak, and I can start slowing down and keeping my mind focused on stuff. It's incredible. So that professional side, I think, is so valid to be able to be diagnosed, and if it's necessary, getting help via either medicine or therapy of some sort, those kind of things.
Well, do you have a tip to throw on top of it?
My first one, and I'm actually looking at it from a different perspective. So you're looking at it from kind of the sports side. I'm looking at it from stuff that we can do internally to perhaps help the situation that we're in. So my first one is plan ahead for what you know, and then include things for what you don't. As somebody, and I guess maybe my tips are kind of from experience with ADHD. Like if I don't plan, then I will struggle trying to figure out what I need to do next. And if I only plan for just what I foresee or what's given to us in like the syllabus or something like that, then yeah, I'll be good there. But if something comes up, like if there's a change or if there's something I overlooked, or if I did something like that, that'll throw everything off. That's what we're going through right now. And I start to spiral. And so being able to plan for, let's just say the semester, if you can go ahead and have your checklist for the semester, and then also put in there times expectations of, okay, there will be some other things that comes up. So I do need to plan for that. But I also have things for like the family, or I have stuff for my job, so I try to plan as best I can for those things that I know 100% is going to happen. And then also give myself time for, the things that just pop up. So like if my girls have a play that they want me to come to, then I can just throw that in there. Or like I have a doctor's appointment, or this week, like I said, this week, or for the next 3 weeks is just the toughest time that I'm going through in my semester. But I also have my girls, they go to gymnastics, and one goes to gymnastics, one plays the piano. So they both have practice today. So I'm having to cut time from me working on my research paper to go take them to that. And had I not been able to plan ahead and plan for this time where if something were to pop up, it's not that detrimental to me, I would be stressing out just ridiculously right now. But it's okay. Like I'm fine. I feel like I'm in a good place right now. So I don't have a problem with it. I want to actually be able to go and watch them, or, whether it be, I'm not sure who I'm taking, piano or gymnastics, but be able to go watch them. And two, I can take my work there too. And it's not terrible. I can still get that done. So I would say definitely plan ahead, and include things for that and that you don't know.
It seems like a simple recommendation, but preparedness really does alleviate so many worries.
I wish somebody would have told me that when I first started. Like that to me is maybe the number one key thing that I've learned in this program that I did not do in my undergrad and my master's program. I firmly believe that is the difference between my grades and my programs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, I struggled for each semester in all of my undergrad and master's program. I struggled each semester just getting enough done and getting enough done at the time it was due. But when I started creating this plan, and I even made my wife a checklist, and she said and she's a planner, but she's never done it in this detail. She said it is the most helpful things that she's ever seen. And I'm getting now where I used to be the day before it was due, I was working on it. I try to get 2 weeks ahead now because I have that checklist. I have that visual thing of looking at it going, okay, I can check this off, check this off, check this off. And then that it helps a ton.
Well, we do know that things building up on you is when things start to feel overwhelming.
Yep. It's a house
just too many things going on. Having a checklist, that old saying about how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time.
Yep.
Right? That's what a checklist does for you. especially if you break every item that you have to accomplish down into sub checklists, sub steps, that this is the to quote Frozen, this is the next best thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you're looking for the next thing I can do that will have the most impact towards overall the things I want to accomplish. It just does so much. I can remember when I was in the military and I was doing trials, courts martial, or administrative hearings. There was so much preparedness, so many moving pieces. I would wake up in the middle of the night all the time, just worried, stressing, having a bad dream that something was going on. And that was continuous throughout different periods of that time. The only thing I could do that would alleviate it at all was to keep a notepad beside my bed. So when I woke up in the night, worried about something, I could roll over, grab the pencil, write it down. Then my mind would be at rest. Just having documented it, just having it so I know it was something I couldn't forget right beside the bed would allow me to sleep comfortably after that. If I did not do that, I'd wake up 3 more times by the end of the night. And when you're not sleeping that much anyway during a period of time, very, very busy period of time in my life, that was absolutely critical. So good tip there. Good tip.
Yep.
My next one, I'm staying on the same theme. Support from friends and family.
That's a good one.
People, the perception of others matter to us. We also depend on others more than we realize. It could be financial support. It could be literal support in so many ways. But the mental sanctity that it gives us to know that we do have people on our side that understand us. One of the core aspects of trust is an element of understanding. That is, we believe we understand the other person, and we believe the other person understands us. Those are the core tenets of trust. It puts our mind at ease. It puts us at rest. It makes our daily life, our actual minute-to-minute, easier if we believe we understand the other person more. Having friends and family who understand your situation. What is the stressor on your life? What do you have going on that's so important? What are you doing to remedy it? Also, if you have some level of diagnosis that is an impairment for you that you have to overcome, they can be a huge, huge support in overcoming it. So you got to get buy-in from those around you. Make certain you're developing or building your own safety net or support structure. And that's going to help you get through the difficult times. It's going to raise you higher and make it more enjoyable during the good times when you're not facing any of these overwhelming stressors. So there you go. Friends and family. Got to have them. Got to make them aware so that they understand your position.
You know, it's funny you bring that up because to me, I value that support maybe more so than the professional. And I get the reason behind the professional, because the professional, they're the ones that could legitimately diagnose you that diagnosis would help. But I think there is something that comes from the support of family and friends, especially friends who are in the program, because they're going through the things that you're going through. So if they're in your class or they're in the course that you're taking is a tough course, you have a study group or something like that, they're in it with you. And their support means a ton because it allows them or allows you to kind of feel like, okay, they're getting it done. They're going to hold me accountable. They're going to support me. If I need help, they're going to help me. Mm-hmm. Those kind of things mean a ton when it comes to your mental health because you have somebody there. It's not just you. If you ever feel like you're just by yourself, that's where a lot of times you tend to spiral. But when you have somebody else out and they're having a bad week or you're having a bad week or whatever, having that support to pump them back up, it's worth its weight in gold. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I've had the pseudo success that I've had right now is because I have two people in my corner that I talk to. I talk to them every day. We text each other. We've gotten on this thing now where we text each other our goals at the beginning of the day. Say, this is what my goals are for the day. And we try to hold each other accountable, but we also are each other's cheerleaders to say, you can do this. You can do it. It doesn't matter. Depending on what it is, it's like one of those things where it doesn't matter how good it is. The fact that you can get it done, because maybe it doesn't weigh a lot on your grade or whatever, but you can get it done. That's one more check. That's that one more bite of that elephant that you take. And it helps. It helps a lot. Having those connections and also being able to tell people, hey, look, I'm struggling. And I don't know how many times I've said this throughout the 4 semesters I've been here, but I'll text these 2 friends of mine and say, look, I'm struggling this week. And they're like, and they'll come back easily. No questions. They'll come back. Oh, you can do it. You're fine. You're 100% fine. And then I do it for them when they have it. Like, it's just one of those things that is known. And that at the end of the week, when I have those times, at the end of the week, I look back and go, if it wasn't for those people, it would have been even more of a struggle. But because of them, I'm able to get a lot of the stuff that I didn't think was, I was able to accomplish. I got it accomplished.
That's amazing. You're doing exactly what you should be doing in terms of getting the support necessary to build you up and get you through it. And as you say, it is working for you, right? You are the perfect example in this scenario.
I will say one thing about this. Well, I want to add one thing to that one, because I do think it's very important, because just in the nature of college, it is a lot of kind of this individualism where you're trying to just get out. If you really want to do a lot for your mental health, like a lot of positive impact on your mental health, the more selfless you are, the better your mental health becomes. Because one, when you're more selfless, you're going to get that reaction back. So when you need times, they're going to help you. They're going to act selfless, for you. They're not going to be selfish with their time. They want to support you because you've supported it. You've extended them this help, and they're going to want to return the offer. But also too, it's just this mental thing of where you're like, okay, I feel like I'm doing something good for somebody else too. In times of harsh nature, things that are down, it'll pump you up. It's the same kind of chemically driven thing in your brain where when you donate to people, it has this effect on your brain where you're helping somebody else and it helps you. So I would say in your second point, when you say get support from family and friends, act in a selfless way, because that's going to really have a huge impact on you.
That makes sense. Great tip.
My second one is going to be a play on the first one. So the first one is to plan ahead. And the whole reason is to understand what you do have, and then also plan for times that you don't expect. With that plan, try to get ahead. Get ahead in the work so that you have time to do other things. Now, sometimes those getting ahead means that you're going to be able to work ahead on other things that's coming up weeks in advance. That's fine, because coming up that you're going to have this big project you're going to have to work on, and you have that extra time because you've already done the other stuff. But also too, it also allows you these times to just kind of relax. You can look back and go, okay, there's been a couple times this semester where I've just looked back and go, I need a day. I just need a day to lounge, do nothing, touch nothing, watch some TV, and be with my family when they get home from school. I think everybody needs that. And my big thing, I cook at my house. I love cooking. I cook every dinner. I make sure that I have time to cook dinner all the time. We always eat as a family. That's one big thing for me in my mental health. Last night, I don't even know, we've never talked about this, but last night I've been preparing for this, for making sure that I have this time, cut out of my schedule. But we're huge. My wife and we're huge Yellowstone fans. Yeah. Not a sponsor, but love the show. And their premiere for the season, for by the time you're listening to this, it would have been a week ago, but it was on last night. And I said, I will not touch any schoolwork during those 2.5 hours. It's just not happening, because I needed that. I needed to be able to, like I said, sit with my wife. We watch it together, and that's just kind of our thing.
Yeah, give
So,
yourself that, right? You
yep.
need these outlets that are going to relieve some of this constant pressure and stress. That's diversion is just what it says. You're diverting from the normal, the main aspects that are driving most of your life. You've got to have these things on the side. Great advice.
What's your third one?
Sticking once again with this whole support thing. If you validly do need the support of your academic institution, so we're in the context of college here, but it could play out, I guess, in the workplace or in high school the same way. But if you need accommodations to get through the requirements, accommodations, for a lot of people, that's an ugly word. They shy away from it because they begin to think there's something wrong with themselves. And really, there's not. It's just something different. It's just something that is there that other people don't have to deal with that you do. So you seek some level of accommodation to be able to perform or undertake the exact same tasks. You both, someone who needs accommodation and someone who doesn't, is able to once again complete the same work. It's just perhaps you change the conditions under which the work is required. So go to your academic institution, see what they have in terms of testing, in terms of accommodation support. It may be things like you get to take your test away from the rest of the class where you'd be distracted, or you might get additional time periods, or during class lectures where you find it very difficult to pay attention. Perhaps you get the opportunity to record those class lectures, or you can have access or mandatorily have access to the PowerPoint presentations and things like that that the professor might use in class. Extended time for certain work assignments that really it doesn't affect the overall output to give, or doesn't give some kind of advantage to have an extenuated period of time to complete it. These are all examples of accommodations that uh, academic institutions routinely give in order to remedy the hardship that you're facing by going through some recognized impairment like ADD, ADHD, or severe anxiety, social disorder, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good one because that's one of the ones that I guess kind of going through my undergrad and even still today, like with ADHD, there are certain things, certain accommodations that really help with that. But I felt like I was always, I don't know why, but I always felt like I never went through that. I never got the accommodations because I wanted to do it on my own. I was too, for some stupid reason, I was too proud and I thought it was better if I did it on my own. And looking back, there are certain things I could have done differently to make it better on my own. I didn't know it at that time, so the accommodations would have helped me. But that's I think it goes with the stigma. That the stigma of you don't want to be, at least me, I didn't want to be known for needing that. And in reality, it's it's helpful. It's there for a reason. So
Exactly.
my third one, my last one, is a simple, just one word: breathe. I mean, that's the thing is take a minute, understand what's going on. I think a lot of times as students, we put a lot of emphasis on certain things. And rightly so. Some of it has some impact on our future, but ultimately it's not of grave danger. So if something doesn't go out, if the outcome doesn't go your way, then figure another way to do it. It's not the end of the world. You were talking about your time in the service. I have a good buddy of mine. I've talked about him a couple times on the podcast. He's a Navy SEAL, and I was going through some really tough times, and he talked to me and he said, one of the issues that we tend to do is we tend to worry, and when we worry about the future. So what am I going to do in the next 6 months? Like, what's going to happen in the next 6 months? What's going to happen when I graduate? Or what's going to happen, if I don't get into grad school, or all these kind of things. And his advice to me during this tough time was appreciate the time one day at a time. Appreciate life. Let's say appreciate life one day at a time. Don't worry about what's happening 6 months from now or 1 year from now. Just appreciate what you have right now, and everything else will fall into place. And when he said that, I started looking at it going, okay, that makes sense. Like I was, you start spiraling, and so you're playing the worst case scenarios in your head, which makes it even worse because then you start worrying about that more. And then when you start looking at it from the perspective of, okay, what do I have right now? What am I appreciative of right now that I have? And what can I control right now? And once you start doing that, then a lot of this, the weight that you have on your shoulders starts to just lift, because you're not expecting the worst. You're just appreciating what you have right now. So I would say my last one will be breathe.
I couldn't agree more. Take a step back, put things into perspective, control what you can, try to get the things that you can't out of your mind, knowing that they're going to happen regardless. Okay. But that still motivates you to do everything you possibly can. The one thing I tack onto there is do things that help you breathe.
Yeah.
Sometimes
absolutely.
It just seems overwhelming. Go for a walk. Study out in nature, right?
Yeah.
If that's an option for you, you're not in an extreme weather climate or something like that. Just use a park bench rather than the library. Use any opportunity you have. If you are able to exercise, jog, ride a bicycle, something like that. All of those things gives you that relaxation that otherwise you physically cannot allow yourself without undertaking something strenuous in that way that, again, diverts your mind from the things that are causing the weight on your chest. So,
and to bring it back to a sports reference, if all these tips and tricks that we're giving you right now, it would be, when I played soccer, it was one of those things that they said, if we lost, if you did everything you could on the field, you left it out on the field and you lost, then it just wasn't your day. That team was just better than you. The outcome is what the outcome was. If you do everything you can and the outcome doesn't turn out to be what you were hoping for, you at least did everything you could. You can't regret what you didn't do. Right. So use these tips, use these things that we're giving you to go ahead and put yourself at the best situation. And if it doesn't work out, then it just wasn't meant to be, and you figure out another way. You always the fork in the road never has one turn; it always has another option. So, once you get there, if you have to make that pivot, make the pivot. It's not the end of the world. So, I think it's been a great episode.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this one. Important
serious,
topic,
but it was
certainly.
It's a huge topic. Well, do you have anything to say before we head out?
Just to remind everybody, hit us up on our website, send us a message. We want to hear from you. Also, once again, we depend on you guys on the podcasting platforms to give us likes, give us all the stars you can possibly give us, share our episodes with other people so we get new listeners. It's huge for us. That's the only way we're going to build an audience. So we need your help. So that's what I'm asking for you. Please send our stuff out. Give us some feedback.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you enjoyed the show. We hope to see you next time. Until then, goodbye.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Reschool'd podcast. Be sure to head over to reschool'd.com for news and other information on things we're getting into.